Join me on a magical journey that takes us on a trolley and ferry ride back in time to 1907 and the streets of Victoria, British Columbia. We will see on this film that was taken by Mr. William Harbeck, Victoria as it was then to a glimpse of the busy downtown as it has become today. Are you ready? All aboard! Traveling along Douglas Street, we see the steeples of St. Andrew's Church, which today is visible only from the other side of the street due to the outward growth of the newer buildings. On the south side of Yates stood the Old Brunswick Hotel, which was built in 1884 with 26 rooms upstairs, full dining room, and a kitchen downstairs. In 1900, Mower and Wallace opened a brand new grocery in that hotel. But in 1938, the building was demolished and replaced with the National Trust Building, which today hosts the Scotiabank private client offices and Shoppers Drug Mart. Our trolley takes us right down Yates, where just on the left was the site of the new Colonial Hotel, built in 1875 and designed by John T. The original hotel was destroyed in a tragic fire. At the time this trolley passes by, it was occupied by a Victoria Printing and Publishing Company. It still houses a modern retail outlet and a small restaurant. Notice the direction our trolley takes in the next turn. Turning left on Government Street today could get you into trouble because in 1921, the decision to drive on the left was made. One of the most important stops along the road has been the center of attraction since 1842. James Douglas of the Hudson's Bay Company chose this part of the harbor as the prime location for BC's new fur trading post, eventually replacing Fort Vancouver as the company's Pacific headquarters and to bolster British claim to Vancouver Island. On June 1843, it was officially christened Fort Victoria after Queen Victoria. At the time of the gold rush, Fort Victoria became port, supply base, and outfitter to the miners on their way to the Cariboo goldfields. During that time, the population of Victoria jumped from 300 to over 5,000 people in just a few days. As Victoria grew, in 1864, the last part of the fort was demolished. The north bastion of the fort is now what we know as Bastion Square. On a walk through downtown today, you can find many stores filling up the surrounding area. And don't forget to look down, because the outline of the original fort can be found at your feet in a row of bricks containing the names of some of Victoria's pioneers. With the influx of people came the demand for more retail. Victoria's first department store was built in 1899 for Weiler Brothers Home Furnishing. It was at that time the largest retail store in Canada. Our trolley ride finishes up with William Harbeck arriving at Victoria's Inner Harbour. Mr. Harbeck was so impressed by the beauty of the harbour and the construction of the Empress Hotel that he stopped to do a full panoramic view. In the distance, we can see the steeples of St. Anne's Academy, built in 1858 by the Catholic Church. It was Victoria's first Roman Catholic cathedral. After filming the downtown area, Mr. Harbeck embarked on a short journey up the inlet known as the Gorge. The Gorge is a historical inlet of the Pacific Ocean. Past generations of Victorians would spend summer days swimming, sunbathing, canoeing, fishing, and picnicking on the Gorge. From Victoria's Inner Harbour, we first encountered the original Johnson Street Bridge. The present bridge was not built until 1920 under the direction of city engineer F.M. Preston. The Johnson Street Bridge was completed at a cost of $918,000 and opened in January of 1924. The timbers were replaced by an open steel grid decking in 1966. Originally named the City Lights Building, this building, which today houses Victoria's famous Canoe Brew Pub, was erected in 1894 to house the coal-fired electric generators that powered Victoria's streetlights. Over the decades, the building has seen many uses and stands as a proud heritage landmark in the downtown waterfront. Located at 1900 Store Street and previously occupied by the Victoria Roller, Flour and Rice Mill, Capital Iron is a remnant of the yesteryear's true general stores. In 1934, it opened for business and has remained in business ever since. Known today as the Bay Street Bridge, the Point Ellis Bridge was the site of a terrible accident in 1896. A streetcar designed to carry only 60 people was drastically overloaded with 142 passengers, causing the old wooden bridge to collapse. 55 people died in what still stands as North America's worst streetcar accident. Mr. Harbeck was impressed by some of the homes that were built along the gorge. One such house is still located at Point Ellis. Point Ellis House is a National Historic Site and is still in use today as a tourist attraction and a favorite for wedding receptions. It offers high teas and features a gift shop and a beautiful flower garden. Today, Point Ellis House is still served via waterway. Visitors can be dropped at the dock just as happened a century ago. Located at the north end of the Selkirk Trestle and was once a sawmill, today it hosts the Victoria Rowing Club. The site was further developed to accommodate condominiums, townhouses, offices, and restaurants. Today, a pedestrian-only bridge, the old Selkirk Trestle was once a railway bridge serving Victoria's flourishing lumber industry. It has become an important link in the famous Galloping Goose Trail that passes through rural, urban, and some wilderness landscapes covering the southern tip of Vancouver Island. Known as the Gorge Swimming Playground, this area of the gorge once featured a closed-in area for divers and swimmers. It was also the site of high diving competitions. The diving towers were impressive, and one can still see some of the concrete bases that held the towers and retained the enclosure. Located under the Tillicum Street Bridge and at the narrowest point in the gorge waterway is a bit of a tidal phenomenon. Changes in tidal levels force large volumes of water to flow through a narrow, shallow opening, creating a reversing falls effect, with a current of up to 11 kilometers per hour and up to 1.75 meters difference in the water level on either side. The rock outcropping that produced the reversing falls was blown up in the mid-20th century. In 1905, the BC Electric Railway Company Limited officially opened their park. The site hosted the annual Gorge Regatta held on Queen Victoria's birthday. The races started near the Reversing Falls and moved down the gorge, around Halkett Island in Upper Victoria Harbour and back again. In 1876, a Songhees canoe won the 3.2-kilometre race with a time of 15 minutes. By the early 1900s, some canoe races started in downtown Victoria. The Gorge Regatta was scaled down after the start of World War II and was only held on special occasions after 1948. Halkett Island is a small island just east of the Selkirk Trestle Bridge. Its name was given by mapmaker Joseph Pemberton in 1851 after a prominent family in Victoria. It marked the territories between two tribes, the Songhees and the Lekwungen. The island featured above-ground burials and canoes containing native remains. In 1867, local boys set some of the burials ablaze, but the fire got out of control and destroyed the island. Although the island was taken away from the Songhees in 1924 by the Federal Indian Reserve, it was restored to the tribe by a court order in 1993. Originally, Point Hope was a distinct geographical feature on the western shore of Victoria's Upper Harbour. Over the years, landfill activities have diminished the point's prominence, but the area is still known as Point Hope. In 1873, the first shipyard was established in Victoria at Point Hope, and some have said it was in fact the first shipyard in British Columbia. In 1917, the site was leased to the Foundation Company, which built 24 wooden steam cargo freighters, 250 to 293 feet in length. In 1928, the yard was sold, and in 1938 it was taken over by the Island Tug and Barge Limited and Victoria Tug Company. These are images of the sealing fleet in 1907. Some were for fishing, but the majority were for seals. The major industries, and historically the largest employers in British Columbia, were forestry, logging, lumber manufacturing, pulp and paper, mining and smelting, along with fishing. All of them depended on the plentiful resources of the land and sea. Fishing salmon was a key economic activity, and it provided a good food supply for the local inhabitants. By 1870, a commercial fishery was established in British Columbia, along with canneries that shipped the canned salmon overseas for sale. There were many factories all along the Lower Gorge and the Inner Harbour. One such factory was the BC Soapworks Company Limited. It employed many residents of Victoria. However, its prime location on the shore of the Inner Harbour made it vulnerable to redevelopment and soon relocated. Nowadays, the Laurel Point Inn stands at the site where the factory once stood. The Gatsby is comprised of 3 buildings. The White Mansion was the original Pendray Mansion. The Judge's House was built in 1877 for entrepreneur A.B. Gray. The small house in the middle was built in 1874 for Graham Clark, a Caribou pioneer. On the harbour side, north of the Parliament buildings, stands the former Canadian Pacific Terminal, likewise designed by F. Rattenbury and built in 1924. It now houses the Royal London Wax Museum and a collection of more than 200 highly authentic wax models. The museum showcases the human and natural history of British Columbia and features periodic exhibitions. There are also highly realistic and inviting displays, such as the Ice Age and coastal forest dioramas, that provide visitors with a sense of having truly experienced the authentic settings. Construction of new Parliament buildings was first authorized by an Act of the Provincial Legislature in 1893, the Parliament Buildings Construction Act. The province, anxious to show its growing economic, social, and political status, was engaged in an architectural competition to build a new legislative building in Victoria. Amazingly, at 25 years of age, Rattenbury was chosen to construct the new building. The Empress, known also as the crown jewel of Victoria, played hostess to kings, queens, and movie stars. Rita Hayworth, Shirley Temple, and Prince Philip were all guests at the Empress. King George VI and Queen Elizabeth were invited to luncheon at the Empress in 1939 as guests of the government. The chateau-styled hotel was designed by Francis Rattenbury. The hotel was to serve business people and visitors to Victoria, but later, as Canadian Pacific ceased its passenger services to the city, the hotel was successfully remarketed as a resort to tourists. Victoria emerged as a tourist destination beginning in the mid to late 1920s. At this point, we are back to where William Harbeck embarked on a journey of discovery of the Gorge Waterway in 1907. We would like to thank our sponsors for their support: the BC's 150th Anniversary Committee, the Heritage Legacy Fund, and the Canadian Heritage. Special thanks for the ongoing support of the Victoria Hallmark Society and Administrative Director Helen Edwards. For more information about Victoria's past, visit the Hallmark Society's website at www.hallmarksociety.ca. Special thanks to Library and Archives Canada for the restoration and digitization of William Harbeck's original 1907 film. Grateful thanks to the Royal BC Museum and BC Archives for many of the historical photographs shown in this video. Grateful thanks to the City of Victoria Archives for their participation in this production.